What if the change in your pocket was worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of pounds? Today, we're counting down 6 ultra-rare UK coins that could make you rich. From hidden errors to legendary strikes, these coins are worth a fortune, and you might already own one. The history of the 1955 sixpence. Let's travel back to 1955, just a few years after Queen Elizabeth II took the throne. The UK was still recovering from World War II, rationing had only just ended, and the coinage of the country was going through a quiet evolution. The sixpence, or tanner, as it was affectionately known, had been a beloved coin for centuries. It had long symbolized luck, tradition, and even romance, often tucked into brides' shoes for good fortune. But in 1955, something special happened. The first Elizabeth II sixpences were minted using a new effigy of the young queen, designed by Mary Gillick. Millions were produced, but what collectors really want are the rare variants. Why the 1955 sixpence is so rare and valuable. Now here's where it gets exciting. While the standard 1955 sixpences were made for circulation, a very limited number of high-quality proof and error coins were also struck. Some of these coins were proof-only issues, never intended for circulation. Struck using polished dies, resulting in sharp, mirror-like finishes. Or error coins, featuring double strikes, off-center alignment, or even die rotation. And in the coin collecting world, rarity plus condition equals value. These special 1955 sixpences, especially in mint or uncirculated condition, have fetched £500, £1,500, and even up to £10,000 or more at auctions. Yes, you heard that right. A sixpence worth £10,000. Just imagine finding one in your family's old coin collection or passed down from a grandparent. How to spot a rare 1955 sixpence. Here's what to look for. Date, make sure it reads 1955. Portrait, it should feature the young Elizabeth II with the inscription, Elizabeth II de Gratia Regina. Condition, if it has a mirror-like finish or looks unusually pristine, it could be a proof. Errors, check for double edges, misaligned text, or striking flaws. If you suspect you have a rare one, don't clean it, and don't sell it without having it professionally graded by NGC, PCGS, or a reputable UK coin expert. History of the 1982 20p coin. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. The 20 pence coin was first introduced into UK circulation in 1982, filling a long-standing gap between the 10p and 50p denominations. It featured the 7-sided heptagonal shape we still recognize today, with Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse and a crowned Tudor rose on the reverse. At face value, it was just a practical addition to everyday currency. But here's the twist. Although millions of these coins were minted, a tiny number of pre-production or trial pieces, struck under extremely limited conditions, escaped into the wild. These coins were never meant to be circulated, but somehow, a few made it out. And because they weren't part of the intended release, they've become some of the most sought-after coins in the UK. Why it's so valuable? The rarest versions of the 1982 20p are known as specimen or error coins, some minted with slight design differences or missing features. These are not your average 20 pence coins. Some lack the correct inscription, others have unusual spacing or edge details that only trained collectors notice, but their rarity makes them incredibly valuable. Depending on the condition, verified examples have sold at auctions for £500, £1,000, and even up to £10,000 or more. That's right, a tiny 20p coin worth over £10,000. Imagine the thrill of discovering one tucked away in an old wallet, drawer, or inherited coin collection. How to spot one. So how can you tell if you've got a jackpot coin? Check the year, look for 1982 on the reverse. Examine the detail, look for irregular spacing in the lettering, weak striking, or unusual features on the crowned rose design. Compare the edge, rare versions may have smoother finishes or subtle die variations. If you suspect you've got something special, don't just toss it aside or sell it to your local coin dealer for face value. Get it authenticated through a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. That step alone could be worth thousands. The history of the 1983 £1 coin. Let's rewind to 1983, the very first year the £1 coin was introduced in the UK. This was a major change in British currency history. Replacing the old £1 banknotes, the new coin was bold, brassy, and designed to be durable. It featured Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, front, and the royal arms of the United Kingdom on the reverse. Now, millions of these coins were minted in 1983, but not all of them were the same. Here's where it gets interesting. The era that made it worth a fortune. Some extremely rare 1983 £1 coins were accidentally minted without the proper edge inscription. Normally, these coins should read Decus et Titamen, around the edge, a Latin phrase meaning an ornament and a safeguard. But a few slipped through the minting process with a plain edge, missing this critical text. These coins are now worth a fortune. We're talking values ranging from £500 to over £5,000, depending on condition and authenticity. And get this, some reports estimate certain specimens could fetch upwards of £10,000 if they're uncirculated and graded by professional numismatic services. That's over $12,000 for a coin you could have in your kitchen drawer right now. How to identify the rare one? Want to know if you've got one of these hidden gems? Here's how to tell. First, check the date, 1983. Look at the edge of the coin. If it's smooth or plain with no lettering, you may have struck gold. Ensure it's not a fake or a worn-down regular coin. Real rare versions tend to show other signs of minting quality. Once you think you've got a rare one, don't sell it to just anyone. Get it professionally authenticated and graded. Services like NGC or PCGS can help confirm its rarity, and maximize its auction value. History of the 1969 50 new pence coin. In 1969, the UK was preparing for a massive change, the shift from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system to the new decimal system. And leading that revolution? The 50 new pence coin. It was the very first seven-sided coin introduced in the UK, and the largest denomination of the new decimal currency when it launched. The coin featured Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, and a seated figure of Britannia on the reverse, holding a trident and shield beside a lion, a design rooted in British tradition. It was bold, it was modern, and it marked the beginning of a new era for British money. But here's where things get exciting. Why it's so rare and valuable. Although millions of 50p coins were produced in 1969, there's a special class of ultra-rare versions that never made it into general circulation. These were pre-production trial strikes, proof coins, and even specimen coins produced for VIPs, the Royal Mint Archives, and collectors. And these coins? They are incredibly rare, and staggeringly valuable. Some have unique characteristics. Struck with early dyes. Different edge finishes. Exceptional proof condition. Or minted in silver or other precious metals for presentation sets. These ultra-rare versions, when authenticated and graded, have sold at auctions for anywhere between £500 to over £10,000. That's right, a coin with a face value of just 50p can sell for more than £10,000, depending on rarity and condition. How to identify a rare 1969 50p. Want to know if you're sitting on a jackpot? Check the date, must be 1969. Look for unusual quality. If the coin is flawless, mirror-like, or looks different from standard circulation coins, it could be a proof or specimen. Weight and finish. Some special editions were minted in silver or cupronickel with a distinct shine. No new text. You might have a post-1981 coin, but if it does say new pence and is 1969, it's worth a second look. If you suspect your coin is rare, don't clean it, and don't rush to sell it to just any dealer. Get it graded by professionals like NGC or PCGS to unlock its full market potential. The story behind the 1996 2 pence coin. The 2 pence coin has been part of the UK's decimal system since its introduction in 1971. By 1996, the coin had become one of the most commonly used denominations in circulation, featuring the iconic portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Raphael Maclaf on the obverse, and the badge of the Prince of Wales on the reverse, a plume of feathers encircled by a coronet with the motto, Ich Dien. But in 1996, something unusual happened. A limited number of 2p coins were struck with errors, inconsistencies, and unique finishes, making them extremely rare and highly collectible. While millions of regular 2p coins were minted that year, the valuable ones are those that include mule errors, where the wrong obverse or reverse die was used. Off-metal strikes. Brilliant uncirculated or proof versions released in extremely limited sets. Or possibly misprinted edge inscriptions, or no inscription at all. Why it's so valuable. These rare error coins or limited edition strikes are what make the 1996 2p coin worth a fortune to collectors. Some examples have sold at auction for £500, £1,000, and even upwards of £10,000 when authenticated and graded in top condition. If one is confirmed to be a mule or misstruck specimen, its value could skyrocket even further, potentially reaching tens of thousands of pounds. Just imagine that, 2 pence turning into a 5-figure treasure. How to spot the rare one? Want to know if you've got a rare 1996 2p in your collection? Here's what to look for. Date check, make sure it says 1996. Look closely at the metal, any color differences or unusual shine. Inspect the design, check for misalignments, double striking, or missing features. Check the edge, some special coins have unique finishes or no milling at all. If you think you found a winner, don't clean it or sell it cheap. Instead, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC to get it officially authenticated and valued. The story behind the coin. Let's go back over a century to 1916. World War I was raging across Europe, and King George V sat on the British throne. During this period, pennies were minted in the millions, but not all were created equal. Most were struck at the Royal Mint in London, but a tiny number were produced under unusual circumstances, possibly as test pieces or in colonies like Australia or India. The 1916 George's VIII GRA penny stands out not just for its age but for its incredible rarity. What makes it unique is the legend inscribed on the coin, George's VIII GRA, Brit, OMN, Rex FID, Def, IND, IMP. Many regular 1916 pennies exist, but variations in minting, legend style, and strike quality can make some worth pocket change, and others worth a life-changing amount of money. Why it's so rare? So what's the secret? A few extremely rare variants of the 1916 penny were mistakenly struck with dies meant for different mint years or different regions. These error coins or low mintage versions are numismatic goldmines. In auctions, especially for pristine or uncirculated examples, values have skyrocketed. In some cases, collectors have paid up to $100,000 or more for one of these ultra-rare pennies. One particularly legendary example, the 1916 1 penny with specific die errors and original luster, reportedly sold for nearly £85,000, which is over $100,000. And the best part? Some of these coins have been found in everyday collections, hiding in plain sight. How to spot one and what to do. If you have a 1916 penny, look closely at the details. The portrait of King George V, is the strike sharp and detailed? The lettering, does it include DEIGRA or a variation? Check the edges, weight, and any irregularities. If you think you've got a special one, don't rush to sell it at a local pawn shop. Instead, get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. This step alone could be the key to unlocking thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars in value.